Welcome back to the Coming Out Happy podcast. We are your hosts, Danny and Keely, and we are so glad that you're here. Welcome back to the show. Coming Out Happy podcast is all about being LGBTQ+, dating struggles, and so much more.
If you like what you hear, make sure you leave us a 5-star review and rating. We can't wait to hear from you. And as always, welcome back to the show. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We are so glad to have you and be back again. You know, before we jump into our topic today, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the current environment that we're working in here. Here in San Diego, we just got news that a statewide stay-at-home order has been put in place for at least 3 weeks. And I know a lot of us are, getting ready for the holidays, and that's a time where we're supposed to be with family and with people and a time of joy. And as an LGBTQ plus person, it's already difficult enough. And I know many of you are probably, listening right now and dealing with that same exhaustion and tension of feeling confined to your home. I think it's really taxing on all of us, and so we wanted to take a moment to just make sure that you're taking care of yourself. I think it's super important that we do that because it can become overwhelming and it's stressful, and we need to take that time for ourselves. So even taking time to tune into this podcast, whether you're on your way to work, maybe you're going for a walk or winding down for the night, you should just be proud of yourself for taking that time. If you want to hear about some more ways you can really tune in to yourself and recharge your mind in this crazy time, I would definitely recommend checking out episode 4, Recharge Your Mind is what it's called after this episode. That's a really good one, and I know we talked about a lot of great ways to really recharge yourself and slow down and just tune in with yourself, because it's important that we do that. So now, without further adu, I just wanted to clarify that. Let's get into today's topic, and we're going to be talking about coming out to unaccepting people. As an LGBTQ plus person, it's something that we go through very, very often, and we have to figure out how to really navigate it and get through it and hold true to ourselves.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally get it. And the funny thing is, I feel like a lot of people think that the coming out process just ends. There's just a time where there will be no struggle. And the truth is, we continuously have to come out literally over and over and over again until what?
And it just never ends.
Yeah, it never ends. And we're dealing with people in our lives, whether it be coworkers or family members or even friends from the past. I know that's a huge thing that a lot of our listeners are probably going through. I think it's a super interesting topic, dealing with telling your, maybe like your growing up friends about who you are. I know that was an uncomfortable conversation that I had to have. You have to look your really old high school friends in the eyes and tell them that, you know what, you're a little bit different than who they thought you were. And honestly, it's so scary because you're not sure if they're going to accept you because they've only known you for one way for the entire time that they've known you. And I think there's so much that is packed into that. But what happens when they're not accepting? What happens?
Yeah, I think a lot of the times we take it personally. And that's something that most people do because we're just trying to figure out who we are. And someone that maybe we were close with or someone we grew up with isn't accepting us, it feels bad. And so I think what we have to do as an LGBTQ plus person that's growing and trying to become the best version of themselves every single day is to learn how not to take it personally. And I think when we break that down even more, you look at it as a direct reflection of them. And I say that because when you break that down and you see why they're maybe unaccepting, right? What are their reasons? Are they not feeling comfortable with who they are, that they can't be happy for you, right? Or they can't accept you for who you are?
Or maybe they haven't been exposed to it. I know that's another big reason why people may have some thoughts.
Absolutely. People in small towns. That's a huge one. Danny and I both went to university in small towns. In the South and in the Midwest and places I'm sure maybe some of you are right now. And so it is a little bit unheard of. I mean, people know about it, but it's not really seen as much as it is maybe in San Diego or LA, places that are a little bit more progressive. So breaking don't take it personally down, right? And looking at it as a reflection of them. I think that's where compassion comes in, right? You see where they are coming from. Why are they feeling this way? Can you go a little bit deeper and look into why they're really feeling, the way they are? I know that's something I've had to do with even my own family when I first came out, is understanding that I can't take this personally, and I had to show them compassion because they weren't ready to accept me because of their religious beliefs. I had to understand that this is something they've believed their entire life. And for me to say this would be difficult for them to grasp in one moment, right? So showing that compassion and not taking it as personally as you would, and really starting to accept yourself. And I have this quote that I want to share with you real quick. Danny, I know you're going to say something, but I love this quote because I think it's so true. Don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. And that's by Don Miguel Ruiz. And I just love that quote because it rings so true, right?
Yeah, but yeah, I think just keeping that in mind during every circumstance that you're in, knowing that it's not you, it's whoever you're talking about. Like, if they have a problem with it, that's completely on them. There's nothing else that you can do. You're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, what I've seen a lot of times is people that don't accept you for who you are, they like to see your reaction. They want to see it affect you in a negative way because of their own insecurities, right? And I think when we look a little bit deeper, instead of automatically feeling attacked...
What are you referring to exactly?
I'm just referring to if someone were to not accept you for who you are and be angry maybe about your identity, or say, like, that's wrong.
When would that come up?
So I'll give you a personal example. It's happened to me in the religious environment of someone saying that this is my sin struggle. And for me...
But they want to see you be in pain? Is that what you said?
They want to see me react to that. They want to see me, I'm saying, hey, this is who I am. And they're saying, no, that's just your sin struggle. That's not really who you are. Why
do you think they say that?
Because I think so deeply, deep down, they feel that they're right and they want to see you be wrong. And it's hard to talk about sometimes because, I grew up in religion. And this conversation's transitioned a little bit, but I think that, this happens a lot with people that grow up in religion. I think that they come out to other religious people and they say it's not God's best, you're going to hell, all the things that you hear, right? And it's a direct reflection of how they're feeling. You have to look at them with compassion. I have to look at the person that says this isn't God's best and see why they're saying that. It's because they believe this. They want you on their side. They want to be validated for what they believe. And when you look at it that way... And
neither one is really wrong. I guess I want to put that out there. It's just whatever someone chooses to believe, regardless of it being you or them, everyone thinks that they're right.
Yeah.
In what they deserve. So, I don't want to go on and say that they're wrong for saying what they want to say because it's what they believe.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I've never been in a religious environment. So hearing that... I hear the pain coming from you because you weren't accepted. And it makes sense.
Absolutely.
But it also makes sense to religious people who are looking to reconcile their faith with themselves and within their daily life. And maybe they haven't struggled with their sexuality or their gender, but, they're just trying to fit it in their world. And sometimes it doesn't fit within us. And that's okay, too. Right. But I don't want to push anyone away to think that it's always like that in religion, because it's not. I've seen a lot of people reconcile the two. I don't want to ever just make any podcast about the separation, because sometimes it can work, and there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the same thing. That was my personal example, my experience that I grew up in, and it hits close to home for me. And so I know a lot of people may experience that, but I also look at it with compassion, right? I look at it with, they've believed this their whole life. Just like I said, I did that with my parents. And I think when we come from a place of compassion and understanding, it allows for conversations that are informative and conversations that allow one another to see both sides. And that's really important. And so I love that when you come from compassion, you're able to get that perspective. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I think just showing respect to people, even though they may not agree with what you're talking about, is really big, because not everyone's going to, even though being LGBT isn't something really to agree upon, but if someone's not going to accept you for who you are and there's nothing that you can do about it, you need to accept that it's their problem too. And that's it. And there's nothing really that we can do to force someone to understand us the same way we can't force ourselves to understand someone else. Everyone is different. Everyone's just leading a life that they think is right. And that's really what it all boils down to, regardless of, being gay, being religious, being you. Like, we're all just living, trying to chase a goal.
Yeah, I completely
And it's interesting.
agree.
It's interesting to see what people are reaching for.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I love the dynamic we have here because, you didn't grow up in religion, but I did. And you see maybe with just coming out to friends that weren't religious, or what was your experience like?
I mean, I had no religious friends because I don't really know why but I didn't gravitate towards like people who were in faith. I don't know why. I don't know what that looks like. But yeah, I never had friends who were extremely devoted to something really outside of themselves.
So what would you say your experience was like if someone didn't accept you? They probably didn't come from religion, but what was the reason?
It wasn't because of religion. It was just because they weren't brought up around it. And, growing up, like, I feel like now it's just more accepting, but like when I was really young and I used to hear, like the boys say like, that's so gay and everything like that. Like, I felt unaccepted in that moment, even when I knew that I was gay. Even when I was like in like 7th grade, I just knew, and I still felt unaccepted or not accepted. I don't know. It's hard for people to grasp sometimes if they aren't brought up around it or around diversity. There's just one way of thinking, and it's normal to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, life is all about learning. Right? Life is all about growing and becoming your best self. And so I look at this a lot of times as just another challenge, another trial, another thing that I have to work through so that I can, continue to be strong and grow into the person that I want to become. So looking at it as a life lesson and, seeing that you can grow from it is really, really important. So those two things, not taking it personally, right? Looking at it's a direct reflection of whoever's saying it or coming from compassion and just taking it as a life lesson. You pick up and you move on. We choose the people in our life that we want to surround ourselves with. I think that's so true. Danny and I have dropped a lot of people that just don't benefit our lives anymore, that just don't add the value and bring us up in the way that we want. And we just move on. And as an LGBTQ plus person, this is a struggle, but I think it's important to talk about it from all the different angles like we discussed today.
Yeah, so I think there's just a bunch of different things a bunch of different ways, I guess, to handle people who aren't cool with who you are. But sometimes, you don't even need them. But I think just being kind to everyone is the whole basis of this podcast. So thank you again so much for listening, tuning in for this week's podcast. We love speaking to you. If you need more help, go over to our page at Coming Out Happy on Instagram. Give this 5 stars, little comment review if you like it, and we'll talk soon.